Hi, my name is Sarah, and today I'm going to show you how to become a human tree. For this project, I'm going to use a large box of original Sculpey. It's $5 at Walmart, very cheap, very easy to find. I'll also be using the Ben Nye Cream Makeup Kit. And last but not least, we'll need some sewing pattern paper. It's just a light, flimsy paper that'll give us good texture. Okay, let's get started. The first thing we need to do is sculpt the Sculpey. So just grab a piece of Sculpey and work it in your hands until it becomes pliable. That might take a minute because it's kind of stiff, so just work it in your hands, and then here I'll show you the size of piece that you'll need to make your base wood texture. Get a size about that big and fit it on your forehead. You might need to break off or add some pieces, but that's fine. It blends together really well. Now to apply your Sculpey pieces, you're going to need spirit gum, which is an adhesive, but the trick to using spirit gum is once you apply it, you have to tap it to make sure that it's good and sticky. So I'll apply it to my forehead here with a little brush, and then tap it down until it becomes really tacky and sticky, and you'll be able to tell the difference. Once that's done, all you have to do is just press your Sculpey piece on. Okay, now that I've got all the wooden parts of my face covered, I'm going to take the flat side of my makeup brush or my finger or any really flat surface and smooth down the edges of the clay. We don't want it to look like we just stuck it on our face. That is what we did, but we don't want anybody to know. So we're going to smooth that out until it's flush with our skin. Now that we have all our edges smoothed out, we're going to go ahead and apply our pattern paper. This isn't a very scientific process. Just rip off a piece of paper that doesn't have any ink on it and press that directly into the Sculpey. You don't really have to use any glue or adhesive for that because the Sculpey has a pretty sticky surface to it, so the paper just sticks right to it. And what you're going to want to do is just cover all of your Sculpey with pattern paper. If you're wondering what this is going to do for the overall effect, it adds a really nice extra layer to the application. The Sculpey doesn't really have a very wooden texture, but the paper wrinkles and creates a nice woody bark-like texture.
Thinking you were an oak, I knew the wind could bend you, but I can't believe you broke.
Now the wind could never break me, only your false love.
Honey, I've been...
Now that we have our pattern paper applied, it's time to start carving our bark texture. So again, I'm going to take the flat side of my makeup brush and just make an indentation into the Sculpey. I don't want to go all the way through, but it's a pretty deep groove that we're going for to make it look like the spaces in between the individual pieces of bark. Now for this process, it's very important that you have a reference photo of what kind of tree that you want to carve. I'm using pine, but it depends on what look you're going for. Just make sure that you have a photo that you're looking at to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. And then just continue that same texture all over your applied Sculpey. Now it's time for my favorite part, which is adding color. For my base coat, I'm going to use the cinnamon from the Ben Nye contour wheel, and I'll take my makeup sponge and just apply that nice rich cinnamon color all over the Sculpey that I've applied. For this process, you don't necessarily need a perfectly even application because the color of bark isn't perfectly even. But for your first coat, you're going to want to cover as much of the white space as possible. Don't worry about inside the cracks. We're going to get to that later. Now that I've finished my base coat, I'm going to add some extra dimension to this color by mixing in some yellow, purple, and violet from the Ben Nye bruise wheel. As I said before, bark doesn't have a perfectly even color, so you're not going to just want to use one color on your bark, no matter what kind of tree you're trying to imitate. So I'm going to just mix in those colors wherever I think that the brown that I applied before is too even. And as you can see, that's already starting to do some really nice things and add an extra level of dimension. And I'm just going to continue randomly applying those all over. Now it's time to fill in all those little indentions we made earlier. So I'm going to take a flat paintbrush or makeup brush in the black color from the Ben Nye contour wheel, and I'm going to take that paintbrush and fill in all those little cracks. It's very important that you use a flat brush and not a rounded brush. A round brush isn't going to be able to get in all those little creases, and it's going to put paint all over the nice color that you already applied to the outer bark texture, and you don't want to do that. So make sure that your brush has a nice even line that can fill in all those cracks.
I swear by God above.
I thought you were a willow, but you never wept for me. You went roaming in the wildwood like a ship that roams the sea.
In my reference photo, I can see that pine bark has a more neutral color than what I've applied. So I'm going to take some Ben Nye Cream White and the same flat brush that I've rinsed out from before, and I'm going to apply a little white here and there to my bark. Now that's going to serve a dual purpose. Not only will it look more like pine bark, but it'll also help to define all those individual little pieces so that the texture will be able to read from a greater distance.
Fickle and it weeps in the morning dew. My love is a pine tree, and that's the only tree that's true.
Alright, we're at the final step. All that's left to do now is just continue our bark texture onto the rest of our face. So I'm going to take the same black from the contour wheel, and I'm going to draw little individual pieces of bark onto my face. You can do this step as much or as little as you want. You just want to make sure that you continue the texture out onto your face a little bit. Otherwise, the application would just seem like you stuck a bunch of clay on your face. So to make the human-tree combination more realistic, you're going to need to continue it out a little bit. And then to finish those pieces, just do the same process we did before on the clay. Fill in each individual piece with some cinnamon, then I'm going to mix in some yellow and violet, and then I'm going to finish it out with a touch of white again. And you might need to go back and with the black and touch up your edges after you finish up your painted on bark pieces. Okay, I'm all finished. As you can see, we've continued a little bit of that bark out onto my face to kind of mix the texture in together. And remember, this took me 2 hours and I've condensed it down into a little less than 10 minutes. So it's a long process, but it's worth the effort. Here's the finished product. Good luck, and thanks so much for watching.